So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you at today's session based on Central Europe cinema, which we have started in the beginning of June as part of CEFO whole year program called Home and Abroad. On this platform, we are dealing with different themes connected with Central Europe as such, as historical notion, as well as current issue with the medium of film and video art. The first episode of the CE Cinema was dedicated to the most, cinema was dedicated to the most recent and also most painful of them all, to Ukraine. We are now entering probably the most exhausting phase of the war, and it is thus even more important to stay focused. For that purpose, we have invited Mikola Rydný, with whom we have cooperated last year already when we were working on the CEFO Triennial 2021. He was then an invited guest of the Anavid Cinema line as one of the members of the critical generation. As it later turned out, other institutions across the region have shown similar interest. And today's discussion should thus focus not just on Mikola's work or work of contemporary Ukrainian artists he has presented to us as a part of film of emergency selection or the simple fact of war, but also on the institutional politics, or to be even more general, to our understanding of basics, West and East relations, canons, ways of communication that we hold, share, or contradict. For these purposes, we will use art as the specific tool that is able not only to represent the thinking of the individual, but also to reciprocally provide him and us as its public with critical apparatus needed for an external reflection. The discussion will be attended by 4 speakers, above mentioned Mikola Rydný, Jara Bubnova, Lena von Geise, and Bohdana Jarina Topilko, whom I am about to introduce. It will take approximately 15 minutes, during which you are invited to ask questions via chat. And it will be followed by one-off online screening of films and video works by Dana Kaverina, Oleksiy Radinsky, and Tomáš Rafa, Zoya Laktionova, Daniel Revkovský, and Andrei Račinsky, all included in the CE Cinema Episode 1, which is in the context of Central European Forum Olomouc called Art in the State of Emergency. To start the debate, I would like to introduce Jara Bubnova from the National Gallery of Art in Sofia. She is a curator and art historian focused on contemporary arts. Born and educated in Moscow, she lives in Sofia, Bulgaria, where she is the founding member of the ECA Sofia and has been director of the National Gallery since 2018. Among her projects are the Bulgarian National Pavilion at the Venice Biennial 1999, Manifesta for 2002, the Moscow Biennial 2005 and 7, the third Biennial in Thessaloniki 2011, or the second Ural Industrial Biennial Ekaterinburg 2012, for which she was awarded Innovation Prize. She is the president of the Bulgarian section of the Association Internationale de Critique d'Art, ICA, and a member of the Artistic Advisory Committee of MOCA China in Hong Kong. The Moscow Biennial of Contemporary Art, the Ural Industrial Biennial in Ekaterinburg, or Autostrada Biennial in Prizren, Kosovo. Lena von Geise and Bohdana Jarina Topilko represents Kunstraum München. After an academic propedeutic at Leibniz College in Tübingen, Lena von Geise studied cultural studies at the Evropa Universität Viadrina in Frankfurt-Oder and at the Université Paris with European Media Studies at the Potsdam University of Applied Sciences and Curatorial Studies at the Academy of Visual Arts in Leipzig. She prepared a number of projects and exhibitions in Germany and abroad, among others at the House of World Cultures Berlin, at the D21 Kunstraum Leipzig, at the Kunstquartier Bethanien in Berlin, or the Photograph Gallery Prague, even Asia Contemporary Art Platform NON Berlin. Bohdana Jarina is an art manager and project manager. Together with Lena von Geise, she created a collaboration platform, Kulturrepublik, to provide information and networks for Ukrainian and Munich-based artists, researchers, curators, and cultural figures. She is working in the frame. Sorry about that. She is working in the frame of the Kunstline project as co-organizer and coordinator of children's art programs in a range of Munich museums. She also worked in Forka Gallery Muzejski Arsenal. And finally, Mikola Rydný, who is an artist, filmmaker, and curator. Mikola graduated in 2008 from the National Academy of Design and Arts in Kharkiv. He works across media, ranging from site-specific installation and sculpture to photography and experimental films. His work have been presented in exhibitions and film festivals, including Transmedial at House of World Cultures in Berlin 2019, 35th Kassel Documentary Film Festival in 2018, The Image of War at Bonniers Konsthall in Stockholm in 2017, and many others. He was a founding member of the Soska Group, an art collective, and the artist run space under the same name located in Kharkiv. Under his lead, the Soska Gallery Lab was instrumental in developing the artistic scene in the region before it was closed in 2012. He created a number of international exhibitions. He also prepared a project called Armed and Dangerous, a multimedia platform bringing together video artists and experimental film directors in Ukraine. So I would invite Mikola first to introduce not just his work, but also the original film of emergency concept. And I would also ask curators from, metaphorically speaking, both sides of the Central Europe, as well as institutional worlds, to reflect upon the selection, individual pieces, and also cultural politics of their institutions. I would be very, very interested in the current mood in society regarding these themes and the ability or potential of cultural institutions to encourage and moderate the most important debates of our times, or rather to frame them, basically, I guess. Now I would ask all the participants just to start a video, also to unmute themselves, and I think we can just start our discussing with Mikola about art practices in contemporary Ukraine. So welcome here in Olmütz, at least virtually.
Hello everyone, it's very nice to be on this encounter. Probably I will start from how the idea of the Film of Emergency program, which is a program of Ukrainian video, art, and experimental cinema, started. I got the proposal from National Gallery in Sofia and Yara Bubnova to make such program in the institution, and I start to think what it could be, because the beginning of war in a way paralyzed many artists in Ukraine in order of having capacity to create new artistic reflection, new production, and new works. But at the same time, we might know that this war did not start in 2022, but Ukrainian society lives with it from 2014, when it started in the eastern part of the country and the region of Donbass. So lots of things changed for these 8 years, and people experienced a lot. And this process was always a subject of artistic reflection during these years. A lot of films, artistic work was done in this period, and I think also some of them were really underestimated, or they were not shown so much as probably people will see them now, after this tragic development of the political situation. Also before that, as you mentioned, I had an experience of curating another video project, which was called Armed and Dangerous, which was researching the impact of violence caused by the background of war, even to those cities of Ukraine and areas of Ukraine which were relatively peaceful. Somehow the war became, the war generally, I think it's not that the military action of the battlefield, this is also a very toxic substance. It's some kind of atmosphere which impact other places and go beyond the battlefield. So lots of artists in Ukraine and also filmmakers, film directors were interested to analyze this phenomena, and it became the subject of the work, which later formed the project called Armed and Dangerous. So, so the topic of the program Film of Emergency was already in the air, and when challenge to make a critical statement about the situation appeared, the artistic reflection was already there. And of course, it's also important to mention that this is not only about critical reflection, but about support, because I think I'm not afraid to politicize the field of culture, because I think in the cases like the war in Ukraine, culture is also a battlefield. So maybe I would also love to name the artists who are in these programs. It's Zoya Laktionova, Dana Kavelina, Alexei Radinsky, artistic duo of Daniil Rivkovsky and Andrei Rachinsky, and my film, which is called No. And what else I can add? I'm really happy that it became a traveling program, and people in other countries have a possibility to watch it because of your invitations to show it in Museum of Olomouc and also in Kunstraum München, and also there are already new proposals, and soon it will be shown on the Gmunden Photo Festival in Austria.
Yeah, this is actually something I found most interesting, I guess, because we are all thinking probably how to not just help, but to broaden up somehow the field we are dealing with. And as I remember previous discussion with Yara and Lena, all the institutions work differently, all the contexts work slightly differently. And the whole question, what is Central Europe? What does it mean to bring up this kind of historical knowledge to different fields and different contexts? It's extremely important. And I was just all the time I was thinking about the media you are using, because the film is very approachable in this way. On the other hand, you are part, at least I see it like that, you are part of the generation which is really very critical and which really reflects the situation and politicize the art as such for purpose, I guess. So maybe if you can also reflect to that, the whole artistic scene you are somehow reflecting, not just in Ukraine, because I can feel something like that really going through the whole Central Europe, not just Ukrainian artists based in Germany or in Poland, but also the Czech scene is quite politically active in last years. And I find it quite interesting, also artistically interesting, which is, you know, there's always this tension between, I don't know, artistic quality and political quality and social quality. There are so many elements we might discuss or might be interested in this level. So if you can extrapolate on this somehow, and then I perhaps ask Lena and Yara also to somehow react to the context of artistic praxis, I guess.
Yeah, initially I was not so much connected with the medium of video and film. I educated as a sculptor, but then I think around 2012, 13, 14, I started to be more interested in this medium, and because I understood that it opens you the different channels of representation of the work. To see the video work, you should not obviously go to the space of the exhibition or installation, but you can watch it on a big screen in the cinema, and of course you can also watch it online, which is very democratic approach and makes the work very accessible, I would say. But I think it's also overlapped with the process in the Ukrainian art scene when those artists who was working, who was using the video as their artistic medium, start to become very close with the film directors who were interested in not so convenient way of making cinema, but using more experimental approach. And in second part of 2010s, there became more and more projects and platforms bringing together those two types of creators. And if we will look at what happened in such crisis situations, like the beginning of this horrible war in 2022, that the medium of video and film became very flexible, mobile, and very fast on response. And I think it's very important because in the situation when the borders are closed, the transportation of material objects is very complicated. Video became something which is very fluid and it can be shown everywhere and project its messages in different countries and contexts.
Yara, I might start with you, I guess, because National Gallery, this is really a platform somehow. So could you introduce your approach? Because I think it's quite, it's always very difficult to put something very up-to-date, very, I'd say, yeah, up-to-date would be just a theme. I don't have to describe it differently on your platform. Can you extrapolate on this and also on the selection of artworks?
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. And it's another occasion when I can thank Mykola for his very quick reaction and his coordination and curating of the project, which is now at the National Gallery. We prolonged the presentation, which stays as an exhibition. And we have this small leaflet published with some texts and the list. National Gallery is a National Gallery, is a huge, typical, slow, conservative institution. And thanks God, I knew Mykola before. We've met in Kiev already many years ago. And then at the crucial moment for Ukraine, he visited Sofia and he did great presentation and helped us a lot to understand what's going on in Ukraine after Maidan. Because of course we get the news, but you know, it's a distance and you don't understand a lot of things, or you have very specific type of vision on the situation. And his presentation at that time was incredibly helpful. First of all, I have to admit that Ukrainian art is actually not very well known, but it's not really true because many of the artists who are born in Ukraine or live there or work there, we know, but we never connected them like, let's say, looking from my point of view, as the art from the Balkans, you know, Serbian art, Albanian art, Turkish art, Bulgarian art. There were individuals who were present. Mykola, since the beginning of our professional relations, he impressed me very much. At that time, he was a member of this Soska group. He impressed me with the simplicity of the language when he speaks with his videos about very complicated things, things that we often already don't address with questions, because it's supposed to be clearly known. And one of his, now it's old videos, done with Soska Group, the Natural Exchange, I showed in Vienna in the format of Curated By, you know, this exhibition in different commercial galleries. exhibitions dedicated to different topics and curated by different curators. And this natural exchange thing was something, that we all want to talk about, but we somehow scared, or we feel too privileged already to discuss such things. How, in what way art becomes recognizable to people from non-professional circles, how it can be valued, what people see there, how they understand things. I guess I still keep deep respect to Mykola, because he all the time asks those questions. And when that stage of the war started, after absolute shock and devastation on different levels, of course, on personal level and on cultural level, because it was something that, at least from my side, nobody expected. We thought that it's political intimidation from one side to another side, demonstration of power, and these passive aggressive political conditions. Nobody, of course, ever expected that we will live through this full format, huge war, which is killing people, destroying cities, and totally changing life and understanding of your context and surrounding. I addressed Mykola because of two reasons. First of all, I was sure that he knows a lot of artists and he has an experience as a curator, and he can suggest us something which is, which is lookable at, which speaks the language that very different audiences can see. Our institution, first of all, it's pretty big for our country. We have 35,000 square meters of covered spaces and a bit of sculptural park and this and that. Of course, we present the whole history of Bulgarian national art, and we are visited by children and students, and our audience, as maybe in many places, but I will speak about Bulgaria, our public expects superstars, shocking, formal, display decisions from the exhibitions, or traditional, classical, local art. So we're doing our best, and we present a lot of things. And of course, it would be super interesting to plan full format, representative, so to say, exhibition of art from Ukraine. But at the moment of war, somehow you have to react, or really to postpone this reaction. And my feeling was that it's better to do it as soon as possible and to start to talk about Ukraine and people there from the point of view of art, how art reflected on all those years that nobody thought about war. And people in Ukraine, they already, of course, had this feeling that disaster is closer and closer. On the one hand, and on the other hand, because we're such an official state-budgeted institution, we can't rearrange our exhibition program too quick. Everybody expects, the plans to go on as they are planned, and whatever explanations are not very helpful. So this was the reason to jump in the idea to present small but immediately selection of Ukrainian art. And I'm happy that we could do it. At least we somehow shortened the distance between two countries and two cultures and two artistic communities, if they can be counted one in one country and only one in another country. And then more and more institutions, mainly private institutions now, started to exhibit Ukrainian art and to talk about this feeling of artists, the feeling in advance of what is maybe not expected by the whole society, but with their empathy, they can express. And I was glad that lately we had Katerina Filuk here with a lecture in the connection with Manifesto 14. And Katerina, who knows the majority of the exhibited artists, she told me that she sent images to Zoya Laktionova, whom she presented as well through the point of view of Izolatia, her big project. And I was happy that we have people who know other people, because through the knowledge of people, we can at least to try to overcome the isolation and misunderstandings.
Yeah, this is absolutely great. Somehow we are building net, right? It's always about this kind of a sharing. And it might be also disagreement, I guess. It doesn't have to be just following the same path, but yeah, building that is a base, I guess. And for that reason, is there also Kunstraum München? Because I think this is a huge contrast. And at the end, I would like to try somehow be in the middle of you, I guess. But now I would invite Lena and also Bohdana if they can react somehow, because I like also the future project, I guess. Thank you.
So thank you very much for the invitation from our side too. And we are a bit in a double function here today. So I will tell a bit more about Kunstraum and how we came to invite the film program to Kunstraum. Because of course, when we also reflected on ways how we could react to the current situation. And it was very important for us to kind of work with existing knowledge and also existing contacts. So we were very happy that Lada Nakonechna, an artist who was an artist in residency in Munich, she did a show in Kunstraum in 2010 with the artist group Rep. And from her we met and we learned that Mykola is curating the video programs or different video programs. And Kunstraum also had an exhibition with Mykola in 2016. So we started to reflect on what has happened since then and also to shed light on what these exhibitions mean today and what has changed and maybe what hasn't changed. And besides, so we organized a podium discussion and also the film program to, on the one hand, open a room for discourse, but on the other hand, to also show images. And I think Mykola, once you already said it very beautifully, that art also gets more or is a social practice. And this also brings kind of the reality or mediates between the abstract knowledge or maybe also what we hear from the news with reality. So, but maybe I can also say a bit about Kunstraum, because it's true, it's a very different institution. It's a very small institution. It's a very, so to say, German phenomenon, because we are an art association and there are many, at least in every city. And art associations were founded in the 19th century, and it was from the middle class to kind of in opposition to nobility. So it's a form of institution which grew as a very, so to say, democratic format, which is supported by members. But this also, of course, as we are a small institution and we do not have a collection, so to say, we are kind of flexible in organizing exhibitions and different formats. So it was easy for us to kind of, on very short notice, to react on a flexible medium. As Mykola already said, video and film are very mobile. They are able to kind of travel. It's easy to show them, even if you do not have like big resources all over the world. So this made us quite, it was, so this came together here. And on the other hand, but I just want to talk about that very briefly. I work with Bogdana because the city of Munich asked us to develop measures for Ukrainian artists based in Munich to build a network. So we have kind of these different forms. On the one hand, to open up a space and to create exhibitions. And on the other hand, how to kind of take action and really work with the situation. So these are two approaches we are kind of working in and reflecting on right now.
Bohdana, would you like to add something? Because you are another voice from Ukraine now here with us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for the invitation. And it's really grateful. I'm really grateful that we can talk about Ukrainian art. And now we see how Ukrainian art wants to distinguish from Russia culture, because always a lot of different researchers and artists were marked like Russian art scene, and now we just have the feeling that we just put our culture map, of course, and we want to make different researches. And maybe for now, I can say also this war gave a really big wave of researching our history, researching our avant-gardes, researching also our artists, for example, that make, I think it's made our revolution Maidan after 2014. And it's gave also different opportunities for the performances to talk about what it was, also this situation with Crimea, and we can say about the performances of Maria Kulikovska, different exhibitions, for example, in Hungary, and different little exhibitions in different galleries in Europe. So, and it started to rethink also if like different points, and sometimes little points, when you go to the huge museum and you see, for example, Sonia Delaunay, and it's always like Russian artist or something like that. So like our researchers start to think about who is these people, and to talk more about history, like how we need to represent Ukrainian culture. So it's more not in these topics that we talk now with Lena. I just like think it's really interesting highlights that also need to be mentioned, and we just like making our way and approach how to represent our earth scene. And yeah, now we're just making in Munich. We start to make our networking and like collaboration project, and I feel it will be growing and growing. We just like in our start. So let's see how it will be. I have really a lot of hopes that it will continue.
Thank you. I share that hope. So hopefully it's going to work somehow. I was all the time thinking about a discussion I had with Lukasz Galusek from International Culture Center in Krakow, and he was talking about the importance to incorporate Ukraine in some sort of, as Balkans, for example, and other countries, into the concept of Central Europe, and basically to the concept of Europe as such, when we don't have to divide on this, let's say, somehow cliche way, I guess. And the first point was actually divide Ukraine and Russia and divide this kind of cultural context somehow. So this is first remark I was thinking about all the time you spoke. The other thing, which is somehow connected with that, leads me to sort of a language. Yara and Lena both mentioned that the selection and also Mikola's work is very approachable. It's somehow communicable. It is able to communicate complicated things in a level that everybody understands somehow, everybody interested, of course. So maybe I would go to this direction. What does it mean to think about this bigger cultural context, let's say, different communities, different groups, and how to talk with them about this complicated issue, and what we are able to do as institutions. And maybe just to start it a little bit, I really liked in the selection a reflection of monuments, actually, because this is something, this is a theme which is really reflected in a Czech context a lot. What does it mean to build a monument and somehow represent the whole idea of the society and so on? And we are all somehow social institutions, right? We are a state-funded state institution. We represent the image of the state or something like that. So maybe this would be a starting point from my perspective. And anybody can say anything. Yara, we cannot hear you for now.
Yes, I have to unmute. I would like to say several words about the topic, which is incredibly important and which gets from us a lot of efforts, and we have to be smart on one side, but can't be slow on the other. And of course, the simplest thing, the topic is of decolonization. I have a very bad memory about the first post-colonial documenta, which was in 2002 with Okuy and Vezor. At that moment, I was in Frankfurt, which is very close to Kassel, and we had a mutual meeting as curators of Manifesta at that time with curators of Documenta. And in one of the debates at Stedel School, when Sarat Maharaj, one of the theoreticians of Documenta, he was talking about post-colonial and understanding and vision of colonial other as an equal. And then after his presentation, me and my friend Dmitry Vilensky, a Russian artist who lived at that time in Frankfurt, we asked the question why Eastern Europe is excluded from post-colonial studies in general. And we got, I would say, even so many years ago, 20 years ago, I would say a very rude answer. He said that Eastern European countries are not interesting for post-colonial studies because the studies are part of a struggle. And Eastern European countries are ladies in waiting to the West. This was our, I would say, big slap on the expectations that learning the tools and the instruments, we would be able to use them for the deconstruction of our own position. Bulgaria is a small country. It uses the same alphabet as Russia and Ukraine and partly Serbia and Northern Macedonia. That's why, again, the confusion, who is who and to whom what belongs is very often. Of course, the heroism of Russian culture, even not only socialist, but Russian culture in general, the Russian-Turkish war for liberation of Bulgaria, a lot of things that has to be discussed and that have to be somehow analyzed. I don't want to say immediately deconstruct because this word means too much and nothing more and more. And for me, it will be, I mean, it's bad to say, but the situation, the war in Ukraine, at least has one positive meaning. It speeds up our own understanding who we are and in what relations we are with others. I mean the big others, the colonial others, and what we can do with it. I don't know so well the situation, let's say, at the Czech Republic, but in Bulgaria, a lot of painful questions were postponed or somehow erased from the daily debate. Questions of history of culture, questions of independence in cultural things, or all the time they popped up in the speeches of nationalists who name themselves patriots, and people who are dealing and are dealing with contemporary art. We never wanted to be connected with them. So for us, all those things, how we are close to or very far away, that the alternative is Russia and Asia or Europe, which means much better culture, was never really seriously analyzed. And again, I apologize in front of our Ukrainian colleagues and the whole Ukraine and the whole population there, even for the slightest possibility to say that there is something, that something can be positive in the war. But this is the only thing that I find, I would say, beneficial for all of us. It speeds up our vision and our analysis of who we are, actually exactly in the terms of colonial terminology, who we are and where we are. Maybe that time we will be able to do it without the Big West, which was once named the former West, if you remember this big project, but it never happened to be really formed. And all those enthusiasm and optimism for me, which is connected with the 1990s, after the falling of the Berlin Wall, that we really live in united Europe where cultures, languages, countries and histories are equal. Sorry for this utopianism and childishness. Of course, it was all destroyed. And we have to start again where we already once started at the beginning of the 1990s.
Yes, I love this remark very much. And actually, I would like to follow you somehow, at least briefly, because I was all the time thinking about this concept of Central and Eastern Europe and East and Central Europe and somehow overcoming it. And I think actually it might be also this kind of a problem that I'm speaking about Czech Republic and this, V4 countries at least. It's still something which is in between and middle and which is somehow closer to the West, I guess. So it's easier for us to somehow incorporate ourselves to European Union, to the whole concept of values and so on. You remember Miklos Jančo probably and his works from 70s, right? These huge ideas about, Greece mythology in Hungary and so on. So this is the idea actually. And what I find quite interesting is this, because I don't want to say sorry, but I see it in a very similar way as you do actually, that we should somehow, and also this is somehow which is on the table right now, thanks to our prime ministers and presidents and so on, that we are somehow trying to push it a little bit because we are based on it. It's really something about surviving right now. So this is quite interesting how it all somehow brings it together, and the beginning of 90s is back with us somehow. Another chance, I guess. But on the other hand, at least I'm speaking for myself and a little bit too long for now, but I really do hope, I don't like this kind of thinking that it's something similar to 1918 or 1945 or 1989. We are in a similar position, but there is another chapter or another way how to deal with it. And I think we should somehow follow this. And this is something I can see in the films that also Mikola shown or chosen for us, because it's the new way how to think about it, how to represent ourselves or define the problem, I guess. What do you think about it? I don't know, Mikola. Yeah, what do you think about it? Is it possible to change history or to build a new world somehow on this platform? Or is it a role of art somehow, at least to project it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very complex question, but maybe my point would be that I think this war also mixed political cards in a certain way, because I think what was very easily be described, or the definition could make between left and right before, is not so easy now. I think that kind of things are quite mixed. For instance, starting from the global political level, countries like Great Britain and the Brexit thing, to which I personally was quite critical, as many, now turned into be one of the biggest supporters of Ukraine in this war. Same time we can say about Poland, culture representative of whom unfortunately is not in our discussion, but easily could be. Which became a very conservative country in the last years, but the same conservative politicians now kind of proclaiming the democratic values, supporting Ukraine. And of course, inside Ukraine, all of that shifted and mixed a lot when, for example, for the former groups which had lots of conflicts in between, like representatives of LGBTQ movement and the right-wing movement, now became allies, because everyone understood that they fight for the common future. When we have now even LGBTQ separate unit as a part of Ukrainian army, because everyone understood that there is a bigger threat and bigger enemy. So in this regard, that illustrates for me that we are standing on the edge of a new political shift, whereas probably old paradigms and old political definitions has to be reanalyzed, I would say.
Lena, do you have some remark? Because otherwise I would ask if art is possible, if art is able to do it actually somehow, but maybe Lena wanted to ask something else.
Yeah, just a short addition, like following up on Mykola, because I think this also shows that also we as curators or in the cultural and art field have kind of have to take a new role in it, because I also feel, and I would really love that this would be a starting point for a decolonization also from our side. And I see it a bit more I see it very critical, because I have the feeling like right now there's so many actions that are taken and there's so much attention for the problems. But all these artists and all these art pieces were there before. So they were already there. And I have the feeling we also have to reflect on how could we start even before that to really raise the voice and to really show those works, and not just when catastrophe has happened. And I'm also very afraid, also in regard of this initiative we are starting here, what will happen when kind of this first wave also of solidarity also from the side of the institutions kind of flattens. So how could we really take this role? And I think Mykola once asked the question, what would have happened if like the art would have been taken more seriously in this whole discourse? And I have the feeling this is also something we have to work for, to kind of not just show things, but really like start even more before and maybe even more powerful than we are doing it now.
Yes, I think it's going to be much more about strategies because I can feel it here. There is still this kind of a voice to help and open up and so on. But on the other hand, society is getting tired and it's going to be worse, of course. So I think it's very much about which strategies we will choose to somehow connect with the public as public. I mean, not professionals from the field, because I think there is still this kind of idea about, open up and help and so on, and try to find the strategies, I guess. So this is also the reason, because we are unfortunately getting to the end of our discussion. Actually, I'm thinking about second edition somehow. It was really very interesting to talk to you. It leads me somehow, I would like to be optimistic, I guess. There are people from Germany, and there are people from Bulgaria, and there are people from Ukraine and from the Czech Republic. And somehow we are connecting. We are in this line, right? Connecting Europe as such. So I would really hope for a positive future in this context, I guess. We have a few more minutes, and I think I would all ask you for a closing remark, just 1-2 sentences, something like that. And then we would like to show the public the films so they have some connection with art. Sorry, I'm sorry, I was muted. I would ask Mykola actually to start with this, and then you can follow in order you would like to choose.
Yeah, I think there was important thought that you, Lena, said that some of the events were already predicted in the artworks, and this is particularly the case of some of the films from the program, because I think that what makes the difference between the art or I don't know, the work of journalist or reportage or a broadcast, that artworks are dealing more, not so much with the facts, but more with the feeling and some feeling in the air, if you like. And probably if people would be more sensitive to that, some events would never happen. And not only people, but also politicians, of course.
Thank you. Yara or Lena or Bohdana? Yara, we cannot hear you again. Yara, we cannot hear you. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I would ask Lena and we'll see if it works.
So after my very pessimistic statement, the last one, I would like to also, I think there is a chance, but I also think we have to become even more modest and also take the time to reflect on it. And still, I really love the possibility to open spaces to like kind of give space for these voices and also to bring these discourses to different places. And I think especially also conversations like this, where kind of these very different opinions and voices come together, can help for it. But yeah, I think we have to be even more powerful and even stronger to work on that.
Thank you very much. Yara, what about you now?
Oh yeah, now I can. I'm sorry, it's a bit strange. What I would like to say, first of all, I agree with Lena when she mentioned that a lot of people, things, ideas, and artifacts were there and here before. But of course, we are all constructed that we notice things and we can feel empathy to the stuff when we know well. From that point of view, I think that the limitations, cultural limitations that all of us have, and cultural managers included and curators, this is our own personal problem. And this is something that we have to overcome. On the other side, Ukrainian art in general, historically, it's such a huge scene. And we really don't know it well. We don't know it well, along with many other scenes that we don't know well. So the whole process, that's why I am more optimistic than pessimistic, that the whole process, it's not only networking, which involves people and their products, but it's education and knowledge. It's really sometimes you think how many things you don't know, even in your professional sphere. That's why I think that we can overcome it only through mutual learning. And actually, I'm so glad that Mykola's program is showed now in Olomouc, because somehow we became connected. Otherwise, you would do something and we would do something with all our exhibitions and people visiting. And now we do it from Kiev to Olomouc and to Sofia. This is already something. Thank you for that.
No, thank you for that. This is right. I mean it, really. Thank you for that. Bohdana, you have 2 more minutes and you can close up the whole discussion, I guess.
Thank you. Yeah, it's true that I think we now in the first steps of rethinking about these decolonization processes and to know. I like that it was said about who we are, and also understand that now we're just talking about culture, variety, and also somehow we want to have our each history. Of course, Germans want to know about Germany history, Polish want to know about the Polish history and like also support it. But I like how we came to the thought like we need to know who we are and also accept other cultures and be more knowledge about them. And thank you for this discussion. I put a lot of different notices and thoughts, so like a lot of things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We end up with studying, need of studying, and I think this is the main issue actually of our institutions, to bring somehow knowledge, right? So let's study more ourselves. Let's start with that, and we'll see what comes of it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your participation.
Good luck, Nicola.
Yes, good luck to Nicola.
Thank you all.
Take care, stay safe, and follow us. Follow Olomouc Museum of Art, because we are continuing the whole summer, and hopefully we will meet in person, hopefully in September. We'll see if it works. Take care, stay tuned. Bye-bye.